Good afternoon. So now the time has come to start tuning this Hohner Verdi 1. So this is where I have to start really focusing on fine details of pitch. And I'm going to start with the treble side. So the first thing I'm going to do is get the treble side reeds out and explain how I'm going to do the tuning on this particular accordion. So I'll just get the reeds out, I'll just get the pins out, and I'll get the reed blocks out. Okay, so on the treble side reed blocks we've got two sets of reeds. One's tuned to a 440 pitch, and then the second set is tuned slightly higher to give the tremolo. And in this accordion, both reeds playing together all the time, so you can't switch between one reed and two reed sets. So what I want to do first of all is tune the A440 reeds to A440 pitch, and then once I've got those tuned, then I'll tune the tremolo side reeds to my desired tremolo using my Dirk's tuner on my computer. So the first thing though is I'm going to tape off the higher set of reeds and then put the reed blocks back into the accordion, and then I'll just be able to hit a single set of reeds which are tuned to A440, and I'll tune those to start with. So I'm just going to get some electrical tape, and I'm just going to make sure I've chosen the right side, otherwise we'll be in trouble. So there we go. So just cover up one set of holes with my tape, making sure I'm not covering up any of the other side, because I want those to be playing. And just trim that off neatly. There we go. I'll do the same for this one, and then put them back into the accordion, and I'll show you what I've got then. Okay, so now I've got the single A40 reeds isolated, I can now play them all without playing the tremolo reed. So and they don't sound too bad. I haven't tuned them yet, and they sound really good. But what I'm going to do now, I'm just going to do the first tuning, and I'm going to use my tuner app on my phone. So I've got a chromatic tuner. I'm going to go through all of the white notes and all the black notes, and I'm going to make some notes in my notebook here for each of the notes, and if they're running when I'm playing it, if they're sharp or flat, and by how much. And then I'm going to take the reed blocks out, make some adjustments, put them in, and test it again, because when you put the reeds into the accordion, they always sound different than when you've got the reed blocks out of the accordion. There'll be a slight acoustic difference. So put the reed blocks in, test them, make some tuning notes about how much you're going to change each note by, flat or sharp, and then put them back in and try it again, which is the best way. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to go through and make my tuning notes for each of the notes, and then when I come to do the tuning, I'll be doing, as I've probably shown before, I'll be using my tuning tools to either raise or lower the pitch of a reed by filing and scratching. So what I'll do, I'll make my tuning notes, then I'll get the reed blocks out and do some tuning, and I'll show a little clip of me doing a little bit of tuning before I put them in. Okay, so I'm going to show you a bit of tuning. So I'm just going to get my a few tools ready. So some of the tools I use, nice, very thin pointer, a nice thin Good Kitchen craft knife. I've actually used some of these micro drills, which I bought in this micro drill set, which are really small little micro drills, but they're really sharp, so they're very good for scratching. So to get some of those ready, I've got a couple of diamond tipped files, so I'll just get those ready as well. Some very small diamond files, get those ready. What else? I think I've got one more little scratcher that I like in here somewhere. There it is. Hardened scratcher. So there's just some of my tools there that I'm going to be using. So it's a D, and so I've got the D, which I've just that one there, and I need to flatten it on the push. So on the push is going to be the outside metal reed that you can see, that one there. And so to flatten it, what I'm going to have to do is somewhere between halfway and the rivet, I'm going to do some little scratches, and that will lower the pitch of the reed. So to show you how I do that, so I've got my little blade, so I'm going to support the reed with the little blade, and I get my little micro drill bit, and I'm going to do some little scratches between the rivet and about halfway, about that many. And now the question is, how much do you do it? Well, it comes with experience. So when I've looked at the tuning and looked at how far it needs to be sharpened, I get kind of an idea of how much I'm going to do that to change the pitch. So I reckon that's probably about enough, but when I put the reeds back in, I'll test it and just have a look and see if it needs any further tweaking. But I have done quite a few times, got a kind of feel for how much scratching or filing will change the pitch of a reed. So that's flattening, and I'll just do a sharpening as well. So let me just find one to sharpen and I'll show you how to do that. Okay, so I find one that I want to sharpen a little, and it's this one here, so it's C2. So sharpen it, I need to increase or take off some material from the tip of the reed. So what I'm going to do is carefully put my blade under the tip of the reed, and then use my little file. So I'm going to use one of my diamond tip files here. I'm just going to then take off a little bit right from the tip, using this diamond to support everything, and then take a tiny bit off the tip. So the key to this is to be gentle. Only do a little bit at a time. It's always best to do a little bit, come back and check, rather than going too far and wreck it. So I think I've done that one. Take that one off. So I'm going to go through my little list, put it all written down on here, and make my adjustments to the tuning, and then put it back into the accordion and see what it sounds like. Okay, so moving on to the next step of the tuning process. So far I've tuned the A440 set of reeds to that pitch, and I'm pretty happy with how that sounds. What I've done now, I've taken off the tape, and now I can hear those reeds and the tremolo reeds playing together, and now I can tune the tremolo reeds to give me the kind of tremolo that I'd like to hear. So if I just have a little play. So it does sound nice, but I can hear that the tremolo is varying a bit. It's not consistent. It's not how I want it to be. So some of it's quite nice, and some of it's too much tremolo, and some of it's I can't hear any tremolo. So what I need to do now is to measure the difference in pitch between the reed tuned to A440 and the tremolo reed when they played together. So I've got a special program on my laptop, which I think I've shown you before, and it's Dirk's instrument tuner, and I can play two tones together and it will tell me the pitch difference between them, and it tells me that in cents, C-E-N-T-S, and my preferred tuning is this lowest C here. I like to have it at 15 cents of difference between that's the A440 and the tremolo one, and then the second C is 10, and then the third C is 5. So I've got kind of gradual decreasing amount of tremolo as I'm going up the keyboard, and I find that gives me the kind of nice tremolo that I'm looking for. Not too wet, not too dry, just what I like. So that's what I've set into the tuner here. I've set that tuning pattern into it, and all I've got to do now is play a note, and then on the tuner what will happen is it will tell me what the note is, and it will tell me the difference between the two reeds that are playing. So if I just see if it just have a go now, just choose one. Let's choose this A here. Oh, hang on a minute. Oh, no, start this again. Okay, so this is the next step of the tuning process. I've tuned the one set of reeds which are tuned to A440, and I did that by taping off the tremolo tuned reeds, and I've got those nicely tuned, and now I've taken off the tape and I can hear what both reeds sound like playing together. And so it's quite nice, but I can hear that the tremolo isn't quite as I'd like it. And so what I've got is my Dirk's instrument tuner, and I can play two notes and it will tell me the difference in pitch between both of those notes, and it gives me it in cents, C-E-N-T-S. And I've got my desired pattern for tuning, and what I like to have at C4 on here, I like to have 15 cents of difference of tremolo, and so C5 will be 10, and then C6 is 5, and that gives me a kind of gradual decreasing scale of tremolo from the lower pitch to the higher pitch, and that's the one that I've chosen, one that I like. So I've set that into the app, and so all I can do now, all I can show now is if I just play a note, so just take a note like say in the A, and if I play it, so on the push it was telling me that I had 11 cents of difference, which is actually exactly what I want. On the pull, there wasn't any tremolo at all. So when I take those reeds out, I need to check that tremolo reed and just see if it's actually working, or it might just be it's tuned at exactly the same pitch as the A440 reed, and in that case I'd need to change the pitch a little bit. So what I'm going to do now is make a note in my notebook of all the notes and whether the tremolo reed needs to be sharpened or flattened, and by how many cents, C-E-N-T-S. And when I've made those tuning notes, then I can remove the reed block, make some tuning changes to the reeds using my scraping and filing technique, and then do what I think is correct. Put the reeds back in, see what they sound like, and check it again, and maybe do a little bit more. So that's my technique. So what I'm going to do now, I'm just going to go through all the notes and measure the tremolo difference, or the difference between the pitches, using Dirk's instrument tuner, and make a note of it all. Okay, I'm going to do that off camera now. Okay, so I've finished making my tuning notes. I've got my reed block out, and now I'm going to make sure that I'm focusing on the tremolo set of reeds, and I'm going to use my tuning notes, and I'm going to go through and adjust the tuning of these reeds using my scratching and filing techniques. When you do this, it's a bit like if you have your hair cut and you take too much off, you can't stick it back on again. So what we're doing is permanently changing the amount of metal on these reeds. So once you've taken too much off, you can't put it back on. So it's always better to do a little bit and check, and perhaps do a little bit more rather than going gung-ho and trying to take too much off and do the job too quickly. So it's always best to do a little bit and check, and then at least you won't have to maybe replace the reed if you've taken too much metal off and it just becomes knackered. So I'm going to do a bit of tuning of these, and I have done tuning videos as well, so they're actually somewhere on my playlist you can see in more detail. But what I'll do, I'll tune them and then I'll play them when I finish tuning them, so you can hear how the tremolo now sounds when I've tuned them all up. Okay, so that's my first run, and I'm just going to play. So I can definitely hear that some of the notes are actually fine now. There's a few that aren't quite enough, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to do another run through and pick out the ones that I'm not so happy with. Just check the beating and the number of difference in sense and pitch, and I'm going to do my second run through the reed block, and just going to get closer and closer to my desired tuning. So I'm going to do that now and see what it sounds like. Okay, so that's had 2 passes on the tremolo reeds, and as I get closer and closer, I'm pretty happy. I think it'll be one more pass through and I think I'll be pretty much there. So typically it takes me 3 or so passes, just getting closer and closer to my desired tremolo, and I do find that's the way that I like to do it best. It does take a little bit longer, perhaps some other techniques, but I've got all the time in the world. I'm not in any rush, and that's the way I like to do it, and I think I can get some good results from doing it that way. So I'm going to do exactly the same thing now for the black notes. I've just done all the white notes. Exactly the same thing for the black notes, and when I've done that one, I'll give it another little blast and show you how my tuning sounds. Okay, I'm going to draw this treble side tuning to a close here. I've done a few passes now and I'm pretty happy. I might just do one more just to finish off, but I think it sounds pretty nice. I think I'm going to leave it there, play it for a bit, and then I'm going to use my ears just as a final reference and just listen out for any little bits and bobs that, oh, that one, I think that's a bit too much tremolo, that one's not quite enough, and I'll do that just by ear, I think, and just do some final tweaking of that. So I think that's good. It's getting there, pretty much done. Might do one more little tweak, but I think I'm happy with that. So the next little bit is I'm going to tune the bass side. So I'm just going to stop this for a second.